Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tosh Customs and today we'll be looking at my custom Mezco Owlman. I have two reviews to film tonight, so we're going to try to get through this in a timely manner and hopefully I can break down everything for you. So as always, we are going to do the accessories first and then I will explain how everything came together. So I'm going to pop off his head, put the figure to the side, and let's look at what we got here. So, three heads. The first one was sort of, we wanted to do a modern, tactical, and almost spy fashioned helmet. We didn't want an open faceplate, but something more closed, something more protected. And so we ended up coming up with this. It feels a little Talon-esque, which kind of feels appropriate since Owlman is just basically an alternate universe Batman. I was inspired by various concept art and sort of redesigns for Owlman, as well as I think the New 52 Rebirth version of Owlman, which sort of has like these feather like sort of spikes that run around the back of the head. And so I brought in that pattern as well as sort of more of like an owl brow that sits above the eyes, and then obviously the Owlman's motif is sort of like the curved eyepieces. So we have those on either side, and then I turned the front mouth plate into sort of like a beak. So that's our first head. We got some 3 lenses here, and something you'll see throughout the review is this color shifting paint. Right now we have this black to metallic blue, especially if you look at this line right here. As I turn it away from the light, it looks black. As I bring it up, you see the shine of the metallic blue in there, and that's also inside the eyes. So that's our first head. Our second head is what I call the sleek Owlman head. I was inspired by like Ken the Owl, and then I think, is it Griffin or Griffith from Berserker or Berserk, the anime? And just the idea was a very smooth head. Owlman's mask, is when we look at the traditional one, is actually really big and bulky, and when you think that it's made out of metal, seems very heavy. And so I went, well, how do I get the owl look across without necessarily having to stick to all those big features? And so I said, well, what if we took that curved eye motif and just dragged it along the side of the head, kind of similar to what we did with our Spec Ops head, but obviously make it a little bit more traditional. We have the open mouth, we have the classic chin guard, we have the more classic eyes, and so with that, we also have that metallic blue that sits inside there, and obviously the skin's been repainted. So this was based off the Ascending Knight Batman head. I cut off the ears, sanded it all down. It's still a little rough, but you really can't, when you're cutting stuff down and sanding it, you really can't get like a perfectly smooth surface. And so I think this is pretty good. You know, if you look at the edge of it, it's pretty smooth all the way around. So that's this head. Also, this one was a custom 3D printed head. I don't know where the customer got it from, honestly, but it was sent to me. So that's how we made this one. And then this head here is based off the Supreme Knight. Yeah, there we go. Supreme Knight Angry Batman head. So we painted it up all the way around. We got that silver framing, or that metallic framing, and that's what I wanted to do. I figured since we had such a big sort of like front faceplate, we needed some sort of like head reinforcements all the way around, sort of like a cage or a frame to help protect the head. And this took a long time to make, so I had to cut off the ears and sand it down, yeah, like the normal Batman ears. Hold on, let me bring in my Darkest Dawn Batman. So, you know, besides the expression, these are the same head. So I had to shave the ears down on the sides. And then what I had to do was I actually just built a volume piece on either side just to sort of get the shape and get something to sort of base the curve on. And then after that, I cut down the edges of it because it just sort of shot out. So I cut down the edges on either side, and then after that I sculpted my third, my third sculpting session was to get the curve on it. And then on top of that, I also sculpted the side, the side piece that runs down, the part that runs around and under the eyes, as well as the chin guard, and then obviously the eyes have their own new sculpt too. So, when you look at them side by side, very, very little looks the same. Once again, as you can see, we have the whites in our eyes, and we have that metallic blue around the edges of that as well. So we get a nice shine to it. And I really like that because it helps give off this glowing effect. And then obviously everything has been painted up in chrome. So this head was very, very difficult to make, took a lot of labor, took a lot of love. I wouldn't want to have to do it again because it took like 3 or 4 sculpting sessions to get this head right. It took a lot of time. I think it was worth it, but yeah, definitely a doozy. So those are the heads out of the way. Clearly, as you can tell, I've brought in some color changing, color shifting paint. I think I talked about it on my stream for Darkside, which is the reveal I'll be filming after this, but I did get color shifting paint for my birthday, which was just last month. And so I've been trying to find ways to incorporate it. And so something fun that I was able to do with Owlman is bring, these shifting paints in. And I think that's really fun because Owlman is generally just a very sort of like black, gray, silver character. And so having those color shifters where in low light, the paint still looks black, but in brighter lights, you get the color. And in rotation of the figure, you get the color. I think that's a really cool way to add detail and sort of like an eye-catchiness without necessarily having to bring in bright, flashy colors. It's sort of subtle and subdued, and we still get a metallic look, which fits with the rest of the composition of the figure. So this is just one of the hands here. This is just his grasping hand. All the hands are painted in the same style, so I'm just going to show one off. As you can see here, we have the front part of the guard, like the gauntlet piece, done in like a chrome silver. And then here we have a blue, violet, and a green. I don't know how it's coming across on the camera. Yeah, you can see some, like right there, you can see the blue, and as we turn it, you're getting a little bit more of the green. The purple isn't coming out too much, but I think we might be able to see it on the gauntlets a little bit better because we get a bigger space. But yeah, you're definitely being able to pick out the blue and the green in there, and that's very fun. So all the hands are done in the same style. I realize they're very far back on the frame. Let me scoot those back in. Yeah, so all the hands are done in the same style, so we don't need to put too much time to that. So let's get to the body. And the sleek head is my favorite head of the 3. So that's the one I'm going to be putting on the figure. So there he is with that head on. Also made a custom cape. So yeah, let's talk about the custom cape right now. So this was from an Ascending Knight cape. And I wanted to get that tiered feather look that Owlman has. And so with that, I cut divots and then reconnected the edges of the cape, which one allows it to fold a lot better around the character or around Owlman. But it also lets us see more of like those individual tiered feathers, which I think is pretty cool. And the fun part is because they're tiered like this, you can actually fold the outermost feather into the cape itself. And so you can show the silver on the inside, even though, or you can wrap it around him. So got some cool options there. This is done on a Supreme Knight body. So it's all on a magnet. We can just pop it off and pop the cape off. And this is my favorite look right here with no cape, because when I look at Owlman, when I see him in the comics and when I saw him in the animated movie, I think it's Crisis. It's not called Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think it's called Crisis on 2 Earths, something like that. He was significantly faster than Batman. He could have beaten Batman to a pulp, and I really think it's because he didn't care that he didn't beat Batman, because that's just his personality. So I wanted to make a very beefy, but yet, if it makes sense to say beefy yet sleek. And that's what I think I accomplished here with this guy. I'm using my old setup again, which also means I can't move the camera as much, but hopefully you guys are getting a closer view on everything. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm going to pick the camera up and let's look at it. So as you can see here, with the proportions, he gets much wider shoulders. All the heads are a little bit smaller, which makes the shoulders look wider. And then because that we are using tactical Batman boots, it also increases his height, which gives him this really, really wonderful lanky look. For comparison, I'm going to bring in my Darkest Dawn Batman. As you can see, Darkest Dawn Batman stands significantly smaller. My camera's at sort of a down angle here. Let me stand them next to each other, and then you'll be able to see it. There we go. You can see that Darkest Dawn Batman, you know, from the top of his head, not even his ears, but the top of his head, it's only reaching about midway to the head of Owlman. Owlman stands solid, probably like 1/4 inch taller, which doesn't seem like too much, you know, when you think of them as figures, but when you think of them as these, you know, 6-foot dudes who are duking it out, that 1/4 inch is a couple, you know, that 1/4 inch on a figure is, you know, a couple inches, you know, on a normal person. Which suddenly you realize that this, you know, if Batman stands what? I think Batman is 6'2" or 6'3". He's probably like 6'6", 6'7". And that guy, so Owlman's massive. But anyways, let's get into probably what you're more interested is how we actually constructed the figure. We did a lot. We did a lot on this guy. And a lot of it was thanks to past projects that I've had and parts that I didn't use. We're going to start from the top. So obviously we are using the standard Supreme Knight body. The neck is still the original neck. Obviously we've brought in some heads. We have Deathstroke gauntlets here. The reason we have Deathstroke gauntlets is they are slimmer than the Darkest Dawn, but not so small that they look dwarfish like the Supreme Knight. So these Deathstroke gauntlets are perfect. Same thing with the boots. They added height and they fit the thickness of the leg. Something we had to do for both the gauntlets and the legs was switch out the internal parts. So I popped off the boots, had to pry away the suit, and then actually pop out the inner lower leg piece as well as the inner lower arm piece. And so that they had the proper connectors for the boots and for the arms to connect onto. So this is not necessarily like a cheap figure in that sense because you need a couple figures to get your connector pieces all sorted out. So that was the part swapping that we did. We have new knee pads also from the Tactical Batman, and we have a spare, we used a belt from Sovereign Knight. And this was a spare one. I've worked with a lot of Sovereign Knight bodies, so I just happened to have an extra belt sitting around. So thankfully I was able to find that. I found it in like a spare like parts box that I had set aside. It was something I totally didn't expect to find, and thankfully it worked out and it fits the body really nicely. So let's talk about mods now. So besides the head, I'm going to go over the stuff I sculpted, which isn't too much. It's really on the neck and on the chest, and then we'll talk about the stuff I painted, which is everything else. So the first thing I did to add to more of that owl motif is I sculpted in feathers on either side of the neck. And I thought that was pretty cool. It adds just a little extra detail, and it's fun because you have, you know, the owl faceplate, and then you got some owl feathers on either side. So we did that, and that just adds a little extra flair to the suit. Then the other thing is we have the owl chest piece. So obviously this is based off of the big bat symbol that's on the, you know, normal Supreme Knight. The reason why I didn't want to change the symbol is because it is pegged and glued in to the body, and I didn't want to damage the rubber suit underneath since the whole idea was to repaint the rubber suit. So in order to, you know, take the least risk to the overall body of the figure, I was like, okay, so how do we do the owl symbol with everything? And what I realized was let me pop off the head for this. The neck piece tends to sit right over the top of the ears of the bat symbol. So it doesn't even look like a bat once you start sculpting on it. So I was like, okay, cool. If I know that, then, you know, I can sculpt the bat symbol and you won't even be able, or over the bat symbol, and you really won't even be able to tell when it's all said and done. And so, let me pick up my camera again. So I sculpted the beak, And then I also sculpted the eyes, and all I did was I just made loops, and then I'm trying to zoom in as much as possible. So I just made loops all the way around, smoothed them out, using an X-Acto knife to make them symmetrical. And then after that, the other thing I did was those owl eyebrows on top on either side. And the nice thing is, since we're sculpting on a solid surface, and a solid surface that is, printed and casted, and so we know that it is symmetrical, it gives us some nice points of reference in order to sculpt the new owl symbol. And then after that, I used a sculpting tool to make all the little feathers. And so all that is just like it's like a little arrow pointed tip, and I just stacked it and moved it all back and forth. And so now we get this nice feather look. And obviously, as you can see, you can see a lot of the green and the blue in that color shifter right there too. And so that's done in that color shifting paint. That's fun. I love the color shifting paints. So fun to see on a figure. And the best part, as you can see in a lower light, you don't really see the colors. It looks metallic, almost a little gunmetal, a little bit black, and then you get it into the light, and then you can start seeing all those colors pop out. So for the entire suit, it's been repainted. And that was really the biggest part of labor in terms of the figure, was getting everything done. And so if you know the figure originally, it is all gray. I don't have my standard Supreme Knight next to me right now, so I can't bring it in for a comparison, but most of you should be familiar with it by now, and if not, you can look it up. But yeah, it's all a flat gray. So the first thing so originally I wasn't even going to paint the silver. It was just going to be, the undersuit mesh was going to be black. And so I did that, and I hand painted all that. That was all done in Angelus black leather paint. It's a great paint. It's very flexible. And so I hand painted all the mesh because that was the only way to get it all colored black. So all the mesh around the whole body has been hand painted black. Once I did that, I realized that there just wasn't enough contrast. It didn't look different enough for me. So then I took my Vallejo Metallics Air Chrome Silver, and then I started dry brushing all the bigger pads of the suit. So obviously this whole chest area, the shoulder pads on the arms, the pads on the biceps, the side pads on the thighs, and then everything on the back all got done in that chrome silver. Once I did that, I realized that because I dry brushed it, all those little cracks and divots got silver in it. So then I took some more Angelus leather black and painted in all the cracks of the suit. And so you can see that all like those extra in-between lines have black in them now. And so that really created a very stark contrast and high definition. And I was very, very pleased with it at that point. It makes the figure really stand out. And obviously, as you can see with some of these straps, we still kept the standard gray because it wouldn't make sense for his, all the parts of his armor to be metal or all the parts of his armor to be a mesh black. And so it's great that it's three-toned because you get the idea of, some stuff is still more fabric. Other stuff is, has some more reinforced plating. And then, we also have our undersuit, probably like Kevlar mix of black mesh. So that layering worked out really, really nicely. Coming to the gauntlets now, these are Deathstroke gauntlets. And once again, we use the color changers in there. So you can see that blue and green. And I think, yeah, you can see it like right here. You can pick up some hints of the purple in there. The purple is much easier to see in person. And, that's just unfortunate the camera doesn't pick it up as well. But you do get hints of it in there. And so we have the color changer on both the inside and the outside. But one thing that I wanted to do to once again sort of highlight the owl nature is I realized that this is a very feather-like pattern already. So I hit the, sort of like these dividing metal edges in this chrome silver, as well as the back elbow piece, which mimics, his very classic look. But then to not make it seem like everything was, symmetrical or uniform, I left these as a darker gunmetal on the inside, whereas the ones on the outside are a brighter silver. And so you get the idea of sort of like the outer wing and the inner wing, hopefully, from that. So that was a fun little design cue that I took. The belt is from the Sovereign Knight figure, It's just been painted up in gloss black and that chrome silver. The reason why I didn't paint in that gold piece is you can put his grappling gun there. So obviously there'd be paint rub and a bunch of messy stuff. So if the gun's in there, you're not going to see it. If the gun's out, he's posed with it, you know, you shouldn't be looking at his back anyways. So that's just for, you know, kind of like quality of life really, and not having to deal with paint rub over time, whether that be the paint sticking to the gun or just the paint looking sloppy on the inside of the clip. So then moving down to the boots now, I flipped the tactical Batman knee pads upside down so that you get more of a point on the top, and I like that. Once again, adds to that very sleek and speedy feel, which is what we're going for the whole character. Beefy but agile was the motto. So, you know, anything that gives you sharp points, that gives you angles. You know, we have sort of an angle here. These plates are very angular. We get the point on the elbow pads. We have, you know, a lot of these sharper angles in the beak and the eyes of the owl itself. This head, very angular, you know, working with a lot of sharp, you know, geometric edges all around this head. You know, this head is a little bit smoother, but we're still getting some of those hard edges. And once again, hard, you know, hard, very clean, angular edges on the Spec Ops head too. So, you know, in seeing that, these heads keep rolling around. In seeing that, it adds, once again, it adds to that whole very quick feel. Everything was dry brushed in silver, and then I also added some more color changer onto the inner parts of the armor, so not like the carbon fiber pattern, but the smooth plate. Got some color change in there. You can see some blue and green through there. And then we also have some more on the boots. You can see some blue and green in there as well. So that covers most of the paint detailing, and that was really a big part for the suit. Not a lot of sculpting had to be done. Not, you know, the part swapping and the paint were the two big things for the body. A lot of paint detail. And it's really nice to know that these rubber suits hold the paint really well. I've posed this guy around. Obviously, I've been working on him for the last couple weeks, so my hands are all over him. He's totally fine, no paint rub whatsoever. Another thing I'd like to point out is just to add some extra shine, I did actually I dry brushed some of the color changer onto the suit. And yeah, the camera won't pick it up. I think the light reflection is just too great. But in hand, if you look sort of like at the mid area of the abs, you actually can get a little bit of like this blue and purple sparkle. But you guys won't be able to pick it up on camera. But for the customer, because I know you watch these, it's there. So that's an overview of the figure. I'm trying to make these a little bit quicker so you guys don't have to drop 40 minutes looking at this. I'm trying to move a little bit quicker and still hit some of the major design points. I think if I were to summarize this guy is 1, get good paints, and 2, take your time. This guy, you know, I think his suit, the metallic suit, is really the big standout. I think the sculpting's great too, but you know, you don't really see people fully repainting suits like this. And so I think the big takeaway is just a lot of patience in, you know, patience in paint, and just be careful. And if you take your time to do accurate work the first time, it saves you a lot of trouble in the long run. And so, you know, for this guy, you know, focused on the details, making really clean lines, getting the definition inside the suit, and bringing out all those little details. And then, you know, in the long run, it pays off. And, you know, we haven't had any paint rub, no chipping, nothing like that. So just using those really thin layers and, you know, making sure that the paints are right for the job. If you guys want a list of paints and stuff, feel free to DM me on Instagram. And with that, my Instagram username will be in the description of this video, and I do have a link in the About section of my channel. So if you ever have more questions about this guy, because I am making shorter videos, feel free to DM me. I'm always free to help out. I'm a little bit busy with school right now, honestly. It took me a while to, you know, even start filming reviews because I've been a little stacked with schoolwork. But I always respond to messages, you know, and so I'll get to you. Sorry if it takes a little while, or if I'm, not as quick as I'd like to be. But I totally want to help other customizers out, and so feel free to get a hold of me. So yeah, this has been a review of my Owlman figure. I hope you like it. I hope you've learned a little something about figure customization through it. And yeah, please follow me on Instagram if you want to see more regular updates. Please subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed the video or any of my other videos, because I appreciate the support, and it's always good to know that the time and effort that goes into these videos is worth it. And it's always good to hear that, people have some positive takeaway. So with that, thank you all for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you do like the shorter video format, or if you'd like me to stick with the, longer video format. I don't know which one you guys like more. So yeah, drop it in the comments below. And I will catch you all next time. Take care, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.